P. So I'm missing the fact that we don't have roundtables right now. And one of the thoughts was, how could we get some of that informal learning? Some people will say that their favorite part of SLC is having access to a Drew Frank and just ask him informal questions. And sometimes some of that Drew might not put in a talk, but he's just answering an informal question that was lobbed his way. And he just drops something that he's not even really thinking about. And you're like, that was the most valuable piece or nugget that I got from SLC. So we wanted to try and manufacture that some way. Here's one of the other things that's frustrating is that as long as a 4.5-hour day might feel next week when we go to SLC day 1 and day 2, especially when it's virtual, folks, we also know that we can't give our speakers a lot of time. And next week we've really only got, I think, about 13 speakers over the 2 days, and we're giving them like 30 minutes. Well, if you're Drew Frank and you've been here and he's basically the Michael Jordan of running an office at Vector, what's he going to get done in 30 minutes? It's going to be like drinking from the fire hose. And it's real difficult for us to give you any meaningful content in that amount of time. It's still going to be valuable, hear me right, but what we thought we would do is augment SLC Strategic Leadership Conference with a Masterclass series. And I'm really excited to have Drew Frank get this kicked off here today. If you're new to the business, you've probably heard that name, but you might not know why. And this is going to be an opportunity for you to hear just some of the best content you could possibly get. It's always exciting when you can go back and listen to him on Vector Connect, and there's a ton of Drew Frank content on there from previous SLCs. So if you'd like to go deep on Drew Frank content, that is certainly available, and I would highly recommend that. That said, today, he has volunteered to be our first Masterclass presenter. I believe that Drew Frank has over 22 silver cups. Drew Frank has more silver cups than I have pairs of shoes. Drew Frank has been so dominant in the business for so long, he's forgotten more than most of us know. I'm excited to have him share some thoughts today specific to sales mastery, although we're not going to limit him to that. We're going to make this feel much like a round table. So here's what we're going to do. Shelby's going to be monitoring the chat. I'll be checking in there, here and there. If you've got a question that you're really dying to hear from Drew or looking for some clarification, that'll be the way to let us know. And we're probably not going to get to all the questions, but we certainly are for the questions that have a lot of energy around them. We're going to try and get back to those. So we do want to make this as informal as possible, which means that I don't even think that Drew has like much more than a TED Talk to present right now. We really want to make this more your questions. So, and the more specific you can be with your questions, the better answer you're going to get. So we're going to try and filter out the how do you be so successful. That's not going to be helpful today. But if you're asking, hey, how do I get reps to want to engage in a virtual world? That's a good question. Or how do we get reps through their training seminar and launched into a great first weekend? These are the type of questions that we might be able to go deeper on there. So without further ado, I'm going to highlight Drew, and between Drew and myself, I encourage you to go to Speaker View, and that way you'll mostly have Drew Frank, the man, the myth, and the legend, the Denver Division Manager for Rocky Mountain Division, Drew Frank. Let's give him some jazz hands, give him some love, a little bit of energy here. Drew, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Trent Booth. Well, I want to make this as value added as possible. And as Trent said, we want this to be roundtable style. I think Mike Abramowitz mentioned last week some of his best times at SLC were just around the table, being able to ask the detailed questions. And that's my most fun time because I can be intense. I can teach from the heart, and I don't have to I guess filter what I say. I promised Trent in corporate that I wouldn't drop any F-bombs, but I'm going to be intense and I'm going to have some fun with this. A lot of this stuff that I'm going to be sharing, that we're going to be talking about, is a culmination of 10 plus years of content. Almost all of what we're going to be talking about is in talks. They're all on Vector Connect. In fact, I've got a handful of PDFs, one-page PDFs in the folder on the drive that Trent sent out. So This is a decade plus of information. I'm just excited to download as much of it as possible, and we're going to go old school style. I remember the amount of times that I've sat with Ryan Davrin and Luke Maseko and some people I see on this meeting right now, Tina Marie, and just the questions over a decade plus, and I'm looking forward to sharing. One of the things that a couple points I want to hit on, and then the way that we're going to do this is Trent asked me to spend maybe kind of 10 minutes or so doing a little bit of an overview of a couple key concepts, and then we're just going to open up for Q&A, and every question, most likely the way that I do this, I'll just rabbit hole into a full topic, and I'll go on a 5-minute or 10-minute rant and do some conversations and role play some conversations. If you were to get one or two nuggets out of this, one or two things out of this, I hopefully that'll be beneficial. If nothing else, you've got 75 minutes to just take some notes and sit in your head and think about your business. I was telling the breakout group that what I loved about SLC was being able to take a couple steps backwards in order to take 10 or 15 steps forwards in your business. I've gone into the fall campaign just as many times with crappy momentum as I have with good momentum. In fact, way more times I've gone into the fall with zero momentum. I've hit P Banquet 13 times out of 13, and I'm committed to hitting it again this year. And every year it's been different. It's been a different environment this year, COVID and virtual. In previous years, it's been either no staff or no reps, or everybody goes away to school, or whatever the case is. And a lot of times in the fall, it's a complete rebuild. So I want today to not just focus on sales philosophies and training keys and just things like that, but how do we take where we're at right now, and how do we rebuild our business? How do we, if we're not on track for P Banquet, how do we commit to it? Even if you're at zero and the past month has been absolute garbage for you, the first 3 or 4 weeks of the campaign, how do you make a 3-month plan to make sure and guarantee that you hit P Banquet? Or if nothing else, you go for it. That way you've got good momentum going into 2021. So wherever you're at for this fall, wherever you're at in your business, this is the most forgiving business that I know, which means that you could have a couple of poor weeks in a row and then just jump right back in with one training class, a couple good team meetings, PCs, a couple inspired reps, and you could be back to that 10K level within a few weeks. I was taught by Earl Kelly early on when I was in the Northeast region when I first started that it takes 3 weeks to create a pop. So if you're at zero right now, by the 3rd week in October, you should be able to get to double-digit 10K weeks new business, and that should put you on track to being able to hit P Banquet, not just by the end of the campaign, but by November, by Thanksgiving. So we're going to talk about thinking about your business in a bigger way and just having conviction in the way that you run it. All of my philosophies that I'm going to teach have been developed over many years. Trent was a personal coach and mentor of mine when I was a new DM back in 2008, and I was just going 100 miles an hour, but didn't really know how to look at my business, how to assess my business, and how to change and grow and progress the right way. And Trent helped me so much over those years, learning how to question my business in a positive way. And one of the things that I realized is that, and I think as a DM, one of the things that my early mentors, my original DVM, Ramon Rouse, my region manager, Lloyd Reagan, my brother, who's been my ultimate mentor, Wes Frank, they've all given me the confidence to be able to make decisions, to take chances, with limited risk, right? Mitigate risk, but take a chance that is the right decision for your business. Don't just wait for people to do it for you. Don't just wait for people to teach you what to do, to tell you what to do, to force you to do it. At the end of the day, you've got to realize, and I realized this early on, thanks to those leaders, and Trent included, is that we're all just, and I said this to the CSPs at an event earlier this spring, we're all just, animals crawling on a rock floating in space. And many of us started this job as college students. And I started this when I was 18 as my first, real legitimate professional job. And I learned everything I know about life in this business through Vector. But then I realized when I was in my early 20s, I owned my own business. I had a lease. I was buying houses, buying cars, buying property. I'm an adult, but I still felt like I was doing this program that I had that I had in my mind since I was 18, 19. I still held that, oh, I'm part of this big organization and I'm just kind of riding the wave. At some point, you've got to figure out that it's you. it, whether that's business or life, you're not somebody's kid anymore, right? You are, yes, you have your family, you have your support system, but everything you want in life, everything you want out of your business and everything you want out of your life is 100% in your control and 100% what you make of it. We are all born with the same opportunity because we all have the same physical ability within margin, right? Nobody's as attractive as Andrew Evans, but but we can all at least try to get within that margin. I'm just checking out his Instagram all day. It's just incredible. It makes me want to be a better man myself. So I think about that. We started at this young age, but you've got to realize that you're in business for yourself. And when you own a business, you've got to make decisions that progress your business, and you keep on developing. Somebody else is not going to always hold your hand through this job. You've got to take that responsibility. So for me, it was questioning things in a positive way. And Trent helped me figure that out to learn how to, in a positive way, to say, why am I doing this the way I'm doing it? Why am I saying this the way I'm saying it? And whether it's scripts, whether it's systems, or whether it's the way we interact with people. Trent used to talk to me about permissible versus beneficial, right? It's permissible to do certain things as a business owner, but is it beneficial? And you can look at, positives or negatives in that way. So I look at everything and I question everything in a positive way. Somebody who's doing that right now is Paige Weber, incredibly impressive. And she looks at every program and she says, like this voice inflection, the way I say this word in my interview, is that the intention that I want? The way that I'm training my AMs on this, even to the minute detail of we're going to use these abbreviations versus spelling out the full word, that she's so dialed in to perfecting and mastering her craft, and that's why her people respond well. So it's questioning everything in a positive way and thinking about what's the desired result. What do I want to get out of this system, this program? I gave a talk in 2012. I was reading, it was fun the past couple of days reading through all these old talks and PDFs, and it was talking about the importance of first promotion, first weekend. And how everything that I want in my business, from 10K fast starters to future assistant managers to branch hopefuls to high PPR to dirty 30, everything stems from first promotion, first weekend. So I spent years just doing a deep dive on how do I set people up for success better in their first weekend, whether it's a better post screen, a better confirmation call, better expectations on PDI after the first day of training, better names list promotion, quality and quantity of demos, and looking at each of those and not just saying, hey, we're just here to teach people how to sell knives and we're just going to incrementally do a little bit better each time. No, it was deep diving into every detail of the business to make sure that I was mastering my craft and giving the best value to my people. I'll give you one example of looking at those philosophies and questioning things in a positive way. And this is really appropriate for our virtual, for the virtual program right now. Is, we used to promote part-time as 7 demos a week, full-time as 15 demos a week. And one of the things that I had a challenge with is how do I convey that to interviewees where they have the confidence to show up to training the right way, to be able to respond to their parents the right way and answer the questions, and to be able to say, gosh, I've got a clear path of how I can be successful with Cutco. So just as a small example, you can promote 7 demos and 15 demos, but then you're expecting people through Zoom either to do math in their heads, to do math on paper. And then the biggest problem that I see right now, again, it's figure out the things that are frustrating, figure out the things that you need to get better in your business. What's the desired result? And then how do you go backwards 3 or 4 steps so that problem doesn't even arise? So for me, one of the problems that I'd be thinking about right now is I'm interviewing a lot of people who immediately after the interview, they're going to close their lid to their computer. They're going to turn around and mom is going to be standing right behind them and say, great, tell me about the interview. What's it all about? And so I'm thinking to myself, if for 15 years as a vector manager, I've been trying to handle the problem of parent objection, right? Of my, my parents won't let me do the job, because that was the biggest thing when I was a new recruiter. And so I think about, well, maybe it's just the lack of confidence in being able to give that information and be able to regurgitate that to mom and dad. So what if you're able to promote a more simpler version? And let's just take, for example, 5 demos a week and 10 demos a week. And we're going to go on a 10-week system, 5 demos a week and 10 demos a week. If I do 5 demos a week for 10 weeks, that's 50 appointments with the closing percentage of 60%, that's 30 sales. 30 sales times the average order, company average order of $340 is exactly $10,000 in sales. So my promotion for what's the potential for this job? Well, if I do 5 demos a week for 10 weeks, I'm going to make $2,000. If I do 10 demos a week for 10 weeks, that's 100 demos. 100 demos times 60% is 60 sales. 340 average order is $20,000 in sales. That's $5,000 in income. So I'm able to promote in the interview, in training, in my PCs, my first PC, day 2 PDI, every conversation is how quickly and how much do you want to make? Because 10 appointments a week for 10 weeks is going to be $20,000 in sales, $5,000 in income. And I always used to take that as a stretch, and I would say, okay, well, 10 weeks from today is what? We're the beginning of October, so November. So 10 weeks from today is the end of November, beginning December. So Thanksgiving. So in my interviews, I'd be talking about how, earning it or $2,000 or earning $5,000 by Thanksgiving, and giving specific specific examples. The other thing that I would be doing right now, especially in this virtual world, is having a ton of visuals. So my slideshows for my interview, I know, Paige rewrote her interview, and I've been telling, managers for, all summer is get dialed in and figure out exactly what you want to say, because what you're conveying, the conviction and what you say, knowing why you're saying what you're saying is so important. So work with your DBM, work with your organization to figure out and make sure that you're conveying the best messages, but have a visual. We talk about having in our division having the breakdown of those numbers, so somebody can literally take a screenshot, and when they turn around in their chair and mom says, tell me about the job, they can say, oh, here's how the job works, or the sales program, to be able to have it as a visual on the interview and say, hey, take a screenshot of the slide. That way, if the job works out, you're able to show how it works to your parents, and you're able to show them what a potential schedule looks like, and having mock schedules of, in the interview. So, I think about, again, that's just an example of questioning things in a positive way to say, what are the problems that I'm facing right now? What are the challenges that I'm facing right now? Either people aren't showing the training with the right amount of names. They're not showing up to training with the right attitude. They're not, maybe they're not making phone calls in their first week. And I'll give you another example of making phone calls and demos ahead. One of the things that Kevin Barth and I and Nick Matlack, the three of us, talked about so much over the years was demos ahead. And Kevin created a program that was just 10 ahead. And that was the standard and the culture in his office. All he talked about was having 10 demos ahead, because no matter what, if you have 10 demos ahead of you, you're always going to have confidence. You're always going to have belief. You're always going to have sales ahead. You're always going to have, future viability for your business with recommendations. And you always have a chance. You always have an opportunity. If you don't have demos ahead, that's the only way somebody can leave on you. So, we talked about how do you guarantee that? And one of the things was 5 before and 5 after. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with it. For every demo that you do, make 5 phone calls before and 5 phone calls afterwards. Because if you make 5 phone calls before every demo and 5 phone calls afterwards, that's 10 phone calls for every demo. Even with low results, you're going to get 10% success on the phone. So if you make 10 phone calls buffering every presentation you do, you're guaranteeing that on average, each demo turns into 1 more. So if you have 10 appointments this weekend, if you do 10 appointments between Saturday and Monday or Friday and Monday, and you do 5 calls before and after every demo, sometimes you're going to make 10 calls and it's going to turn to nothing. Sometimes you're going to make those 10 calls and it's going to turn into 3 or 4, but on average, it leads to 1 additional demo. So what that means is that if you do 10 appointments this weekend, then you're going to, by the time you wake up on Tuesday morning, you should have, as long as you make those phone calls, 10 appointments ahead of you from that point forward. And as long as you keep doing that, you're going to have 10 appointments for your second weekend. So if you do 10 this weekend, 10 during the middle of the week, and then 10 next weekend, that's 30 appointments. On average, that's somewhere between $4,000 and $7,000 in sales for the average Cutco rep. And that's just by setting up 10 appointments this weekend and making 5 appointments before and after. And one of the things that we said was, why are people not doing it? Well, we weren't talking about it enough. It wasn't a visual, and we weren't promoting it the way we should have been. So we made these stickers, and it was so silly, but it was just these little stickers. We took mailing labels and we printed thousands of them, and we put it on every door handle in the office. We put it on every blue book. We put it on every training manual. We put it on every page of the phoning pages of the training manuals. That way, when they got it in training, everybody from the first day of training said, oh, 5 before, 5 after, that's just what we do. And that was, I think, when Alex Mazurek was pilot manager. We were doing $1 million summers. We did 100K new business almost every week, because across the board, everybody had demos ahead. That was the summer that we had $178,000 new business week. And it was it was the biggest week that we ever had. And when we looked at the sales report, there were a bunch of people that had big sales, but we had, I think, like 60, 50 or 60 on the newsletter, over 1,000 that week. And we had over 150 reps turn in orders that week. And so it was all because we were just generating demos, and that consistently stuck. And it's interesting, as soon as we stopped talking about it, as soon as we stopped printing those stickers, fewer demos ahead, fewer sales. I think about the virtual environment right now, and what you can have on your desktop and what you can have in your walls behind you, right? You are a walking, talking testimonial, and it's all about promotion. So whether it's, demos first weekend or names lists, like Mission 100, Alex Mazurek does such a great job in North Denver, because 100% of his team knows that mission number one as a rep in his organization is hitting Mission 100, having at least 100 people to call on your list. As long as you have 100 people to call, you're going to be successful in the job. I don't think I've ever had a rep quit when they had 100 names and numbers. I've never had a rep quit when they had 100 names and numbers. So if that is, we think about the one thing. What are all the one things that change everything? And for me and Maz, it's 100 names on your contact list. Because people don't quit because they don't like the job. People quit because they don't feel like they have enough people to call. Right? They don't feel like they have enough people to call. Everybody has people to call. They just don't feel like it. So again, we talk about philosophies, and we're going to chat about some of those things today. My conviction and my belief comes from me working on my craft so much over the years. Whether it's, an inner circle. The other day, I did Kathy, Kristen, and a couple of DVMs. This has been part of my inner circle. I'll share the picture right here. This is part of my inner circle, is Kathy, Kristen, Brian Stevenson, Dane Espergard, Brian Hurlman, and Evan Keller, and these are just some of the DVMs. This was just last week, and we were chatting about how do we improve this fall? How do we make this fall better? What did we learn from this summer? And these are some of the the top DVMs and the top managers for years and years in the company. It's because we keep on mastering our craft. We keep on digging in and finding out how we can improve. So again, it's part of that belief and conviction. I've been teaching and saying some of these same things for so long, and it's just ingrained in my head. And the way that you say it to your reps, the way you build that confidence with your reps, makes all the difference. All right, so that's kind of a little bit of just overview. I want to talk specifically and get into PPR. Again, I want to reference just the PDFs, and I'll share all the PDFs that are in the shared drive.
There's 49 files there, by the way. I did the math.
There's quite a few, and I don't know if the dates show up. This is really, I'm just giving you my arsenal. And we're not going to have a chance to dig into all of this stuff today. There's a couple key conversations. I want to talk about accountability. I want to talk about creating big first weekend sales. I want to talk about, training keys to create that first promotion guaranteed first weekend, some fast start sales. We can talk about teams, but then we can go into whatever direction you want. So I'll tee it up with some basic PPR stuff. But these documents, this is what I've been putting together for almost 15 years, and this is the most valuable asset that I have, because when you come up with a program and you develop something, the importance for me was that even as a district manager, most of these documents were as a DM and as a DVC, not as a DVM, and most of these are 5-10 years old, and collecting this and being able to teach my people gave the reps in my office, my assistant managers, so much confidence and belief and credibility in me as a leader, because I took the time to teach, and I took the time to give value. And it wasn't just taking other people's stuff and reteaching. It was, how does this work for me? How does this work for my organization? And how do we put the South Denver stamp on it? So don't get overwhelmed by this. It doesn't mean you have to create your own library. This is a gift to you, so use everything that you can. One of the things that I've also taken to heart is that everything that I've learned has been on the shoulders and the foundation of somebody else. And I watched somebody else do it. I learned it. I tried to master it, perfect it, maybe enhance it, and then re-deliver. So feel free to utilize all these things. Just don't take the PDFs and put your name on it. That's the only thing I ask. But otherwise, utilize everything that you want. And this is the Vector library. So, but every one of these could be a deep dive conversation with your staff. Each one of these could be a workshop, and we're going to dive into a couple of them today.
Drew, could I interrupt you for just a moment here, brother?
Of course.
How much time would you say an average PDF or one pager? And by the way, if people were to start opening those, they'll see that they're like a page each or maybe a little over a page. How much time would you say each of those takes for you to cement it on the front end?
Most of these are philosophies and programs that were developed over a couple of years. And so I would come up with the philosophy, teach it repetitively. And then once I had it formulated to this is as simple as I can boil it down, that's when I would turn it into a PDF and a program. To me, my philosophy is that if anything is more than, what's up, Goose? If anything is more than a page, it's too much. It's overwhelming and they're not going to get it. Especially, we're working with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old college students for the most part as my assistant manager staff. So to me, it was everything that I teach has to be for that range of like that TED talk that your brain span is only 18 minutes max. And so for me, anything that I teach that is more than a page of notes, it is too much. And it's too much of an expectation for me to have on people. So the other thing that I realize is that simplicity is the most important thing. Repetition and passion is what sells Cutco. Repetition and passion is what creates recruits. It's how you're going to get better at your interview. It's how you get better at training. It's how you get better with rep management. And I tell my reps that it's not a secret sauce on how to get better at selling Cutco. The more you do it and the more you love doing it, the better you're going to get. It's just like sports. It's just like, music, just like school. If there's a class that you love and you study hard, you're going to get great results. If you don't study and you don't like the class, you're probably going to fail. So repetition and passion is so important. I think with the interview, I didn't delegate anything for my first couple of years. I ran every interview, every PC, every PDI call. I had, 150, 200 reps on the squad every summer. And I just did 100%, worked 14-hour days. And I just worked to the point where I figured everything out and I mastered it to where I said, okay, now I can boil it down. Now I can simplify it to where I can pass it over and effectively delegate. But each PDF, I don't know, a couple hours in the middle of the night. Most of them I did like 3 o'clock in the morning when I was, in my mid 20s. So I spent a lot of time working. And I made a lot of what other people would call sacrifices. To me, it was just investing into my business, investing into me. And whether it was, time with Vector and improving my Cutco business or just improving my skills overall as a professional, spending that extra time mastering this craft with recruiting, with networking, with getting the most out of people, with developing high level, high caliber people, those are transferable skills to anything I would do in my life, Vector or not. And so it was an investment in myself, an investment in my business. And I spent a lot of time on it. And so maybe that was the overachiever mentality, but I think Vector is designed for overachievers. As a rep, I tell this to our reps in training. This is a confidence booster for reps when I do my visits for all my DM offices is who else in their right mind would be on a Zoom training at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday learning how to sell knives if you weren't an overachiever? An overachiever has 2 characteristics. An overachiever is somebody who believes in themselves more than the average person. Maybe not where you are right now in life, but you believe in yourself more than the average, at least what you're destined for. And the second trait, the second characteristic of overachievers is that you'll run through a brick wall to get it and to hit your goals, and nothing is going to stop you from getting there. So obviously all of you are overachievers. The reason why you showed up to training today is because you knew that you're destined for more. You know that you're not just an hourly type of employee that clock in, clock out, and just get what you get. You know that you're somebody who you can put in more value, and you should deserve the rewards from that value in any situation that you're in. So the same effort, the same mentality, the same energy that you put into everything else you do, whether it's sports, whether it's school, whether it's relationships, whether it's hobbies, whether it's your other jobs, if you bring that same energy to Cutco as you do in everything else you do in your life, you're going to absolutely crush this job. This job is designed for overachievers. It's designed for people to go the extra mile. So when Travis tells you to do 10, 15, or 20 demos in your first weekend, think 15, 20, 25. When Travis tells you to make, an hour worth of phone calls tonight to book up your appointments, think 2 hours or 3 hours, right? Have that overachiever mentality, because the more you put in, the more you get out. You are always your own limiting factor in life, whether it's job or sports or school or profession. You're always your own self-limiting factor. So what you put in is what you get out. And I love that in this job, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your parents do for a living, where you went to school. What matters is your attitude and your work ethic. And that's all I had when I was 18 years old. I had an attitude. I had definitely an attitude. I had a positive attitude, and I had a work ethic, and I wasn't going to let anything get in my way. And I love that it didn't matter that I didn't have that experience, that nobody was going to tell me what I was worth. And I don't think that in your job, and I don't think that in life, anybody should tell you what your value is, and I don't think anybody should tell you what you're worth. Right? That type of conviction, that type of confidence, and getting people to believe bigger. I don't know where that tangent came from. So
well, no,
I'll
this
stop,
is perfect. I want to keep you going here, because a lot of people might think that Drew Frank just emerged from the womb, like with sample kit in hand and just crushing with all these PDFs, and they were given to you or something. But the reality is, you've got, without hyperbole, dozens of hours, quite possibly hundreds of hours invested into those 50 PDFs.
Thousands.
Now, the good news is we don't have to we don't have to reinvent those wheels. Those are pretty good rolling wheels, right? So we can utilize those. But the point is, I'm hoping you're catching this, is that Drew was given permission to question the business. So some of those weren't existing programs when he got them. He's like, hey, I don't like the way that one is right now. And he talked it over with his division manager and his region manager, and they'd come up with a solution to that, and basically to iterate and make it better. And on some occasions, though, you might kick tires on that. And as Drew got into it, he's like, okay, I didn't understand that before, but now I understand it. So even without changing it, it shifted from renting the idea, doing what somebody else was telling him to do, to owning the idea. And that's what I hope that you see there presented in those 49 documents. That's Drew Frank's core values documented. If we were to publish that, that would be a best-selling book right now, by the way, Drew Frank. It'd be probably about 150 pages. It's very simple. But the reality is that simplicity took you time to get it to be that simple. C.S. Lewis once said, I would have written a shorter letter, but I did not have the time. It would be easier to write a 4-pager. It takes time to refine it and to boil it down and to make it simple for everybody to understand it, to get it in the 1-pager. But once you've got it, Drew doesn't wonder about the chicken list. He's got that thing down. And that confidence that not just Drew, folks, let me also say this, because Drew might not say it about himself. In the history of many people step out and have outstanding offices. Most of those, though, did not have corresponding outstanding divisions. Or the other way around, we'd have outstanding division managers. Their pilot wasn't so great, but they would produce a lot of CPO. Drew was both. And what you need to see with Drew Frank here is that when I said MJ earlier, that Michael Jordan analogy, nobody worked harder than Michael Jordan. Nobody's worked harder than Drew to be able to get where he's at. But now what he's done is Jordan also made people around him better. And Drew understands here, he didn't delegate this up front, but eventually he could hand it to somebody, because he did have the program sorted out and have the deep conviction and deep belief in that. So, Drew, if I was to just even ask you here, what would be appropriate for a first, second year district manager who looks at that and it's like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. What would you recommend them starting to, in terms of amount of hours it would be appropriate? If they're overachiever, give us a range between minimum thought on the business on a weekly basis. What would you recommend during the non-summer?
An afternoon, an evening, a minimum, a couple hours, specific for either studying programs, working on your scripts. One of the things that I realized that even from campaign to campaign, you've got to change what you're promoting, right? Our interview right now should be vastly different than what it was over the summer. And that'll change in a month, because right now we've got this 10-week window from now until Thanksgiving-ish. In 2 weeks, that 10-week window is going to be Christmas, and they're going to be, well into winter break. So it's always changing. So whether it's working on systems, programs, scripts, honestly, for me, it was every day. So to give advice on that, it was just I lived and breathed growing my business because that's what mattered to me. It was, I created this intense need to be successful with my office, whether it was financially to build the lifestyle that I wanted later, and that financial freedom, whether it was to develop future leaders, whether, Nick Matlack becoming a DVM, and, a couple Hall of Famers, and a bunch of CSPs to build this foundation. Now I'm just, I'm able to love every second of every day of the business. So to me, it was worth it. I had this mentality that I knew that I wanted to be here for a long time. I knew I was building towards something great, and why not be great at it? Why not try to be the best that I could be? I just had this fear of mediocrity. And that's why I talk to reps about this too. And one of the things that, as we what all these conversations, I'm very open and authentic and genuine with reps. And what I realized over the years is that you can't talk to everybody the same. You can't have the same reactions to everybody because everybody's different. Everybody looks through the world in a different lens. They look through the business in a different lens. Everyone's entitled to their own emotions as well. So for me, it was just realizing that everybody had potential to do well, and it was my job to help them see that. In this business, I want to dive into some key conversations and some specifics because I'm in a teaching mode. But one of the things that I realize is that everybody's a blank slate, and everything you say to somebody from the interview and going forward is the first time they've heard it. Right? And unless they're a PR of their sibling and they kind of know how this job works when they go into it, everything you tell them is the first time that they say it. So there's a couple things that I want you to jot down and think about. And these are the kind of some of the main concepts that I taught with. And again, whether it's interview training or rep management, one is experience equals expectations. Experience equals expectations. And I want to hit on that conversation because I think it's really powerful. And what experience equals expectations means is that nobody comes into this job expecting to fail, right? Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to have no sales and flame out of after their first weekend. Nobody shows up to training wanting to have a misconception on, or misperception on how the job works. So any negative experience that your rep has, any negative reaction that your rep has, whether it's to a no sale or a bad week or, to anything happening is in your control. And that's called making sure that your experience meets expectations. And one of the ways to do this is a simple tool called 10-80-10. And I'm trying to find it in one of my docs here, but 10-80-10 means that you're giving people the possibilities of what can happen. And a lot of times there's certain offices that are really good at working with high flyers, and everybody who's a high flyer, really, really sharp rep, they're able to do really well, but it's a small team with high PPR. There are other offices that are really good at getting retention and keeping reps involved, and they've got a big team and great culture because they're nice people and they are able to work with others, but they don't allow for those big performances. So 10-80-10 is experience meets expectations, where is what somebody is experiencing in the job, did it match up with what their expectation was for what they thought it was going to be? And that could be phone time. It could be names list assignment. It could be first weekend demo performance. I'll give you one of the first ones, which is nervousness in training. And this is just creating comfort to where, sometimes it's shocking to me that somebody would show up to a day of training and wouldn't show up the next day. We don't sell a sample kit. Like, there's nothing that they have to spend other than time. So if what they experience in the first day of training is different than what they thought they were going to experience, different than their expectation, then they're not showing up to day 2, or they're not launching. So if you have a low launch percentage or a low show to day 2, then it's because what we're saying in our interview isn't congruent with what we're saying in day 1 training, or the things that we're saying in day 1 training is different than what they're experiencing in their results. So as a simple one, it could be nervousness in training. So 10-80-10 is as simple as this. And sometimes you can say 10% of you this, 10% of you this, 80% of you this. I don't do that because that seems kind of forced. I just say, hey, there are some of you in this situation. There are some of you in this situation, and most of you are in this situation. And what that means is you're setting the low bar, you're setting the high bar, but you're setting the average, right? You're creating an expectation, but you're creating a platform. So if somebody has lower than average results, then they're not going to be upset, disappointed, and quit. If you ever had a top rep, go out in their first weekend, they didn't get the sales they want, and then they quit because it wasn't what they expected to happen, right? Or you have that, the rep that goes home and phones. Who's had a rep that goes home and phones that first night, and they just don't show up the next day, or they say this job isn't for me, or I had a family emergency, or my mom doesn't want me to do it, or my cat, one of those top 5 excuses, right? Why somebody doesn't show up to day 2. It's because their experience and what happened didn't match what they thought was going to happen. So I'll give you an example, 10/8/10. Hey, some of you are incredibly nervous right now, and some of you are like freaking out. You're like smiling out, let me just get through this. It's my first time on a Zoom call, it's my first time in training. Don't worry. Some of our best reps that we've ever had were the most nervous people. We have a rep named Sarah on our team, and Sarah ended up becoming an assistant manager. But Sarah was the most shy, most nervous rep on the team. In training, she didn't say a single word, literally didn't say a single word until I called on her and made her say something during the couple days of training. And she was the #1 rep in her training because all she did was just take a lot of notes. She took in everything. She made a ton of phone calls. She set herself up for success, and she became the #1 rep in her training group, hit 2 promotions in her first weekend. You better believe she's talking now. She won't shut up because she's the most talkative person on our team, but she was the most shy person in training. So if that's you, don't worry, just smile and nod through it, laugh at all my jokes, and you're going to be fine. Now, there's a couple of you that you are so eager. Like, I'm looking at Nate right now. Nate's like, give me a piece of rope, give me a knife. I know we don't even get those anymore, but let me get it. Let me just start selling knives right now. And I'm going to go and get my face up on the back wall and a plaque in your office, and I'm going to break records. Now, I love that for Nate, but don't be overconfident, because this job is really simple, but it's important to get the right information. So I know that Nate is super confident, but he's also going to make sure he takes just as many notes as Sarah. That way he makes sure that he gets all the content, and he doesn't, he doesn't what's the word I'm looking for? Overestimate himself and underestimate the challenge, right? So anyway, so if that's you, that's fine. So make sure you take a ton of notes and still stay engaged and have that energy. Most of you are confident. Most of you are like, hey, this job is really cool. I'm really excited for it. I'm excited to see how it goes, but you're not exactly sure how it's going to go for you. And if that's the case, that's exactly where you should be. If you're thinking, hey, this is a cool opportunity, I know people do well, I might have some friends on the team that are also really solid, but I'm not sure if this is the job for me, that's exactly where you should be right now. And if that's you, I want you to take advantage of this opportunity, because this means that you're that overachiever mentality, that you're willing to give yourself a chance, you're willing to take risks, you're willing to try, right? And here's what I ask for you. If you don't know if this job is for you, I want you to give it 2 weeks. I want you to give it 2 weeks, and I want you to commit 100%. You don't have to marry this job, but I want you to pretend that you're going to be here for a while. Pretend that you're going to be here for a couple of years. Imagine that you will be that future superstar, because if you just dip your toes in the water, it's going to feel cold no matter what. Right? If you dive in head first, you're going to feel really comfortable. So I want you to dive in head first, give it 2 weeks. The worst thing that can happen is after 2 weeks, you realize that knife sales isn't for you, but you learned a lot of great skills. You built your resume, you made some money, and you didn't have to spend anything except your time and maybe a little bit of your ego to make some phone calls and set up those appointments. But this is the best decision you should be making for yourself. Do not just dip your toes in the water. Absolutely go full force, go head on. So that's why we have an assignment of 10 demos in your first weekend. That's why we're going to talk about this all throughout training. I'm going to be a tough coach. I'm going to be the biggest, toughest coach that you've ever had. I'm going to teach you through accountability. My objective, my goal is to get you to that $6,000 level as quickly as humanly possible. If you do it in your fast start, it means you made $1,000 in your fast start. If you did it in your first month, it means you made $1,000 in your first month. Both those are pretty exciting depending on where you're at in life, right? But my goal is to try to get you there as quickly as humanly possible, because if I can get you to 6K, you're going to be self-motivated. Right now, I'm more motivated than you for you to hit your goals, because I know how powerful this job is. I'm a product of this company. I paid my way through school, graduated debt-free, and I see thousands and thousands and thousands of others do the same thing. I want you to be successful. I know you can be successful. I love everything about this company, our products, our program, our people, and I want you to see that for yourself. But the only way you're going to see that for yourself is if you make a good paycheck and you get off to a solid start. If you go into it and you limp into the starting gate, you're not going to see the results, and you're going to question everything I tell you over the next 2 days. So my assignment is for you to, and my goals, my objective is for you to get to that 6K promotion as quickly as possible. That way, once you're at that level, I mean, You sell $1,000, you're making $250 an hour. What other person in your situation, who else in your group of friends is making that type of money? You're not going to need me to tell you to get on the phone from that point on. Every time we talk, you're like, okay, Drew, bye. I got to get more phone calls so I can make more appointments. So I want you to get to that level. That way you can be self-motivated. Until that point, I'm going to be the toughest coach you've ever had, because I want you to get to that level and I want to force you to get there. I'll be nice and I'll smile about it, but I'm going to be tough. The other thing is that it's important to do 10 demos this weekend. 10 demos, absolute minimum, no matter what. And this weekend means your first 4 days. By the way, this is for DMs. Let me take a step back here. 10 demos in your first 4 days is so important. It's so crucial, because a lot of managers, they lower their expectation in the fall and spring. And that is so just, it's a clown move for me, because the objective is not trying to max out the space in their first weekend. The objective is get them to their first promotion. For me, the one thing was getting everybody their first promotion first weekend as quickly as humanly possible, because once somebody hits their first promotion, then everything's on the table as far as development, promotion. Their confidence is there. They know they can do this job, and they know that they have that belief. So 10 demos in your first 4 days. If you launch on Friday, it's until Monday. If you launch on Saturday, it's until Tuesday. The benefit of that is you're guaranteeing demos for the second paycheck in the second cycle already. So it's always this 4-day vision. It's always about 10 demos. If you do 10 demos, if you schedule 10 demos this weekend, even if 2 or 3 reschedule, that flaky aunt of yours is going to get a nail salon, appointment last minute. She's going to cancel on you. Your uncle is going to forget about it. Your best friend's dad or your best friend's mom is going to have something that comes up. So if you schedule 10, you're going to complete 7. If you complete 7 based on the averages, you're going to hit your first promotion. It is my expectation, my goal, my job as your manager is to make sure that you make at least $100 this weekend. That's my goal. I don't want anyone here making it less than $100, because if you spend a couple days in my training and you make less than $100, it means that I didn't do my job. So if you hit your first promotion, you made $100 in income. More importantly, you're at 15% from that point forward. And the next $1,000 you sell, you're making 50% more than you did last time. What other job can you promote yourself, within such a short period of time? The other reason why it's so important to do those 10 demos is because if you do those 10 demos, if 2 or 3 reschedule, you still complete 7. 7 times our base pay of $15 is over $100, $105. So even if everything went wrong, even if you sold nothing this weekend, and if everything goes wrong, the Murphy's Law rule, if you're that one person, no big deal. Because you still made at least $100 this weekend. So my commitment is for everyone to make $100. That's why our assignment is 10 appointments. If you have an incredibly busy schedule where you don't have time to do that many appointments in your first 4 days, let me know. We'll make a great plan for you that works for you. And let me tell you about so-and-so. And I'll give an example of a top rep in our office that only was able to do 5 appointments their first weekend. So, Cartson was only able to do 5 appointments in his first weekend. Is that Spencer Cartson? Okay, Spencer was only able to do 5 appointments in his first weekend because he had a family trip, and he also had family events on Sunday, so he literally only had 5 spaces he could do appointments speckled out through in his first couple days. So what Cartson did is he made sure he focused on his best 5 customers, and the reason why he focused on his best 5 customers is because he needed to make the most out of his time, plus he needed to build his confidence. This weekend, it's all about building your confidence. It's all about giving yourself that motivation. I know that Spencer can sell Cutco. I know that he's going to be super incredible at this job. He's probably going to become an assistant manager one day. That's probably what Spencer's going to do, but you don't know that yet until you give yourself that confidence. So this weekend, you've got to show your best 5 customers no matter what. Here's the thing. Some of you have a list, and I'm looking at Rob because Rob and I have had this conversation at roundtables for many years now, but some of you have a list that you're not so sure about. By the way, this is a 10-80-10 conversation tying back in. Some of you have a list that you're not so confident about. And some of you are looking at your list, you're like, I don't know if I know a whole lot of married couples. I don't know if I have a whole lot of people that are going to buy Cutco. I'm just not sure. And if that's you, that's fine. Be confident in your list, because what I want you to focus on your list, everyone's got 5 people they know can buy at least something. Maybe not the biggest set, but 5 people that can buy at least something. So what I want you to do is focus on who are the best 5 customers that no matter what, even if you cut them, they're going to buy something, because this weekend is all about building your confidence. I know, Rob, that you're going to sell a ton of Cutco, but you have to prove it to yourself. And even making that first sale, is going to be a big confidence boost. So don't show anyone this weekend that you think is taking a really big chance, is going to be a big leap. Make sure you show people that you know are definitely going to be able to buy at least something from you and build that confidence. Now, that first demo, I would rather you wait on your first demo and push it back to make sure you fit somebody in that slot that you would be absolutely shocked if they didn't have buy in that appointment. Again, it doesn't have to be a big set. It can just be something, but they've got to be able to build your confidence, because I want you to focus on mastering your script and perfecting your demo this weekend. I don't want you worrying about who's going to buy and who's not going to buy. Now, that person that you wanted to show this weekend, if you show them too soon, Rob, they're probably not going to buy because you're not confident enough in the demo. Now, if there's somebody who you want to take a little bit of chance at, wait until next week. Wait until next week to call those people, because by then you'll have hit a couple promotions, your confidence will be through the roof, and you'll be able to get them a better value and give them a better presentation based on what you've learned. So again, it's building that expectation. I'm just using example after example. The other thing that I would write down, in addition to experience equals expectations, is examples. I am teaching through examples, and I am dropping names every opportunity, every second that I can get. And whether it is in the interview, dropping names, in training, I give the 10-80-10 expectation, but I explain people's names and I make it real, especially if they're a PR. This is something Damian Scott does a really, really good job of. And he's just name dropping. And he's like, well, if so-and-so can do it, you can do it. And that's the premise of name dropping. So in every situation, every example in training, who's somebody that didn't have a big names list? I used Will Heffernan. He's now a CSP Hall of Famer. And Will, in his first weekend, he moved from a different area. He only had 3 appointments. He made 1 sale, didn't hit his first motion. Then within his fast start, I think he sold 1,100 or so in his fast start. So barely hit his first promotion, ended up selling $6,000 for his first campaign. Wasn't a like blast out of the gate success story, but now Will has created an incredible career. He's a Hall of Famer, makes 6 figures annual income, still selling knives and still controlling his schedule. So, giving examples of slow starters. The amount of times I've said, Curtis JQ is his name. He sold $76 in his first weekend. He sold a cutting board and a hunting knife in his first weekend. That was it. And he came into advanced training on Monday and he gave everyone a high five and he said, I'm the one who took 1 for the team. That's not true. He didn't say that, but we would have liked him to say it. But Curtis didn't give up on himself. He said, I'm still going to go after it. I'm going to work hard. And he is, arguably the greatest, in-home customer rep, Cutco rep of all time. And so giving those examples. So experience equals expectations. Dropping a lot of names, I think is really important to me. One of the other things, and I'll
Drew, can I pause you here for just a second, brother?
Go for it. Sure.
So Drew is saying, hey, lots of names. It's not just the names. I hope everybody here is catching that these are specific evidence, right? These are stories. Each of these are designed to give somebody in the training group a path. So keep in mind the context here is 10-80-10. Drew is looking for a way to qualify as many people as possible to keep them in the game. Somebody here is nervous. He goes, hey, if you're nervous here, you're fine. I had this person here, gives the specific name, and here's what they eventually did, and here's how they did their first weekend. He gives specific information, and that person goes, huh, maybe I can do this. Then he also goes the other side and goes, hey, somebody who tore the cover off the ball, and they did 12 demos over the first couple of days, right? So he gives both examples, and I know that in the chat, one of the questions was, how do we raise expectations for our top performers without blowing out the low ones? Folks, it would be very easy to miss. Again, the context of this is 10-80-10. Listen, some of you, if you're in the room, you can't do a lot of demos this weekend. It's okay. Now you did see where Drew did focus. You want to make sure you see your best people, so he's got an answer even for them to still possibly get at least sales success, if not their first promotion that first weekend, right? Most of you will probably do this. And hey, 1 or 2 of you in this room, you are crazy. You're going to go out and you're going to wreck it. You're not normal, but also you're real. In other words, expectations equals reality. So he's giving them a full range. He's giving them the top bar, but he's also giving them the low bar. We want them too. And by the way, some of them turn out really, really great in the long run, though. So we've got all of this recorded. We're going to get a chance to go deeper dive onto this one, but Drew, definitely want to be able to give you kind of a breath here as we go into the last half of your time here that we've got.
Perfect.
One of the questions,
Can I,
what,
I just
please.
as you said that, also being honest with what gets the result, and you said experience equals expectation. I think about that in explaining why we give the assignments we do. As I explained why we have 10 demos in your first 4 days, explaining the importance of 100 names and numbers on your list. There's a PDF that has the analogy of waiting on calling referrals, building up your names list. It's like the analogy of, transmission on a car and going through different gears, and also jumping into 6 inches of water versus 6 feet of water. You give yourself, some leeway in case you mess up a little bit. So, whether it's names and numbers, I also think with Trent, it's like the number of demos. We used to say, and this is something I haven't thought about in a really long time, is hit your weekly demo goal in your first weekend. That way your first paycheck is as big as you expect it to be. So if most people are thinking, oh, I think 2 or 3 demos a day is a good schedule, well, normally you'd have 7 days to do it, right? Well, if so, basically 2 or 3 demos a day is 15 demos for the week. So if you're thinking 10 or 15 demos for the week, squeeze those 10 or 15 demos in for your first 3 days. It's going to be more, it's going to be overwhelming. You're going to be exhausted, but what you're going to learn through that and the head start you're going to get is you're guaranteeing yourself a full paycheck, even in an abridged week. And then number of demos too, Trent, is just, if 1 demo a day in your fast start is going to hit you $1,000 in sales. 2 demos a day in your fast start, 2K, right? So it's 1 demo, 2 demos, 3 demos, 4 demos. That way it's the expectation. So your simplified promotion of 5 demos a day. If you've got a hot shot, if Ryan Williams is like, thinking he's going to, blow the lid off and be the top rep in the training group, it's, hey, great, just prove it. 5 demos a day. I know you can do that. I know you can get your face up on that back wall. It's going to take 5 appointments a day. That way you're focused on activity, no matter who it is, somebody who's on that 10 on the lower end or the 10 on the higher end. It's all based on activity and simplified promotion. It's just, if you do this, this will happen. And it's giving realistic expectations for amount of phone calls. What I like to do is what's called build a wall around your goals. Building a wall around your goals means doing more activity than what it takes to create that result. So I would give more expectation for phone time. Hey, when you go home tonight, at a minimum is making 60 minutes of phone calls tonight. 60 minutes of phone calls, because the hour of phone calls you put in tonight is going to guarantee you that you're going to book your demos for this weekend. It's going to guarantee your first paycheck, momentum, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what most of you will do, so it's that 10-80-10. So most of you, some people are just going to phone for that hour. Right? So most of you are, the 80% are going to make 90 minutes to 2 hours of phone calls. You're really going to take advantage because you know that the time you put in now is going to pay you back tenfold. How fun is it going to be to have 10, 12, 15 appointments lined up for your first weekend, and then be able to coast? You're going to be hanging out with your family and friends on Zoom, playing with knives, talking to your customers, making sales, writing up orders. All the work is done on the phone. And even though I'm not going to be the one to be there tonight, I'm not going to be in your room tonight making those phone calls with you. You've got to do it on your own. And what you do in the dark is what's put you in the light. And this job is a representation of life. Not always is somebody going to be there to force you to do your job. That's why we pay the way we do. That's why you have an opportunity to earn the commissions that you do, is because you have the responsibility of doing the work on the front end. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? So you've got to put that hard work in now. And I promise you that will be the hardest thing you do in this job, is just grinding on the phone. It's the toughest thing, but I will tell you, the sooner and the quicker you get better at it and you get a knack for it, you start having fun with it, you're going to absolutely love it. And this job is going to be an absolute piece of cake for you. So spend that time. Now, there are a couple of you, and this is, I'm looking at Anthony Hernandez right now, and I know that Anthony is the person who's like saying, you know what, Drew, you told me to go above and beyond, and I'm going to do that. Training's over at 6 o'clock. I think it's reasonable to call people until 9:30. I'm going to make 3.5 hours of phone calls tonight. I'm going to line up every single demo I can. I'm not just going to go for the first 4 days. I'm going to go and book up my first 5, 6, 7 days if I can. I'm not going to stop until my lips fall off. Let me tell you about so-and-so who also had that same philosophy, and then I'll give example after example of top reps who did that same thing. So giving realistic expectations as well, Trent. So,
Dude, I love this. I got a feeling we're going to need to have you back, Drew, because I don't think one 75-minute session is going to get this done. So I'm already, even just based on the questions we have in the chat that I know we can't get to, we're going to bring you back at some point. If it can't be this fall, based on your schedule, then we'll bring you back in the spring. Drew, I want, again, to give you a chance to pause here with 20 minutes remaining or less. I want you to consider a topic that if we didn't cover it today, you'd go, oh, I missed, and I wanted to bring it. So that's one invitation. Another here, Drew, is the question, what's emerging for me is the group here might want to binge on Drew Frank content. If you were to compare the value to just kind of thinking your own thoughts and journaling versus parroting or mimicking your programs and just binging Drew, what counsel or advice would you have for a first, second year manager, a pilot sales manager that's considering, hey, I don't want to think, I just want to do Drew?
Is that a direct question? I think I would start with the SLC talks. I think that would be the best start. Trent, would be most. I think most of the years were PPR and sales driven, but I would start with some of the early SLC messages and just dig into those. And a lot of it is philosophy based. So, you're able to take that and really, make it your own. I'm looking at Josh there, and he's somebody for, 10 years, we've been talking about sales philosophies, and it's every SLC, he and I would have a conversation of, hey, I took these things, I implemented it, whether it was Dirty 30 or whether it was first weekend, first promotion. I would say pick one thing that you need to master, one thing you want to really get better at this fall campaign, and just pick one topic and one strategy at a time, whether it's training, whether it's fast start, PPR. It's hard to do it all at once. This is, for me, I still feel like I'm getting better every year. I don't feel like it's not like, oh, I figured that out. I feel like my PPR, my philosophy, my convictions get stronger and stronger every year. So, it's always a work in progress.
Appreciate that. Just for those of you wondering, I know we had a scheduled break here at 2:15. We decided we would set Drew up with a great exercise in the front end. So we're going to push that break back to about 2:30 here. But Drew, with let's say 12 remaining minutes here, dealer's choice, man. We've got questions about what are you doing outside the business to bring it to make you epic inside the business. So I know you've got some of that in your podcast, which I did put in the chat notes there. And or if you want to continue down the vein here of anything that you wanted to deal with in terms of sales mastery, we're gonna let you choose, let you decide, my friend. Here's what I know: it's gonna be good.
I love it. Well, let's dive into some oldies but goodies then. Thank you, Patrick, for that, and Josh. For Josh, for virtual training, nothing changes except there's more opportunity and there's more time for people to have a consistent year-round schedule while they're away at school. I think that the virtual opportunity makes Cutco way bigger and better than it's ever been. One of the things I'm telling our trainees every week is this is the greatest time to be selling Cutco. I think the company, the programs, the systems, products, everything gets better and better every year. But now we went into a program where there's unlimited opportunity for appointments. So as long as you get comfortable with the phone, you get comfortable with building up referrals, and you can maintain that network, you have more of a sales opportunity than anybody ever has before. You take a college student that's been here, over the summer. What if somebody does 10 appointments a week throughout the course of the year, 10 appointments a week over 50 weeks? This is how I'm promoting to our FSM, prospects, and why it's all about activity and consistency and just demos, no matter how no matter what somebody's level is in the business, right? Reps sell because they feel good, right? They get recognized and praised, and they get genuine appreciation. They have a lot of people to call, right? A names list, and they have an action plan, right? Phone time, demo time, a schedule, accountability, all that. So people to call, they feel good, they have people to call, and they have a plan. Now, gosh, what was I just lost my train of thought for a second. But for our, gosh, where was that? Try to remind me what my last thought was there a second ago. I was sitting on training. I lost it.
You were talking about promoting FSM opportunity.
Year round, 10 demos a week.
Good. I was looking at my notes and I got all my one pagers here. All right, 10 demos a week. 10 demos a week, 50 weeks. If somebody could do 10 demos a week over the summer, they could do the same thing while they're away at school. There's no activities. We're in a virtual environment. If they do 10 appointments a week times 50 weeks, that's 500 demos, 60%. That's 300 sales times 340 average order for the company. It's $100,000 in sales. So somebody legitimately in this environment, as long as they can consistently do 10 demos a week, can become a CSP and do 100K in sales and pay their way through college. I don't think there's ever been a better time. There's never been a better opportunity for that in Cutco. Now, you as a district manager, can you get somebody to do 10 demos in a week? For sure. can you dig in? Can you wrap your arms around those couple people and create those examples without a doubt? So that's the difference in the virtual environment. I think that there's more time for people in between classes. There's more time for workshops. In the Rocky Mountain Division, every office weekly has a names list workshop, a scheduling time management workshop, a closing workshop, and a referrals workshop. So those are 4 workshops in every office. So I think more content, more value. I think people in a virtual world right now are craving more influence. I think you cannot understate the importance of your role as a district manager and your influence. I said before that everybody is a blank slate. So if Joe's got a training group of 10 reps in front of them, the first things that they're hearing about Cutco, the first things they're learning about work ethic, right? Their teachers in school aren't teaching them how to become a professional. They're not teaching them about time management and going the extra mile and doing, being great in your life and how what you do matters. And, you're going to have good days and bad days. And it's about how you react to it. The things that you're able to say, how you're able to frame somebody's mentality, build their confidence and build their belief is so important. And you have the ability as a district manager that the more people you impact, the more people you believe in, the more people that you dig into and you develop, it helps them, it impacts them, but it also impacts you, right? The way we make money is by helping more people. And that's why I love this job is we are incentivized to grow and develop others. We're incentivized to develop champions who believe more in themselves, believe in the opportunity, and are willing to go after it. So I want to teach a couple topics. And the first thing is one of the documents that you have is called 3 Reasons for Lack of First Weekend Pop. And I think that the training seminar, again, first weekend, first promotion is so crucial, so important to make sure that people get off to this fast start, having the right confidence. And again, as you think about these keys, think back to say, what could I be doing differently, whether it's in my confirmation call, whether it's in my introduction to training, whether it's in my holdback group, my one-on-one, is 3 reasons for lack of first weekend pop. So going into it with a plan on the front end. So the first one is lack of quantity demos. So the reason why somebody wouldn't do well in their first weekend is if they don't have quantity of demos. So the names list assignment is crucial. However you do your post-screen assignment, giving examples, being authentic and genuine. We don't have time to dive into the whole names list, post-screen talk right now, obviously, but being able to explain, hey, let me show you how this job works. Let me show you the benefit and explain to you why our reps work so hard on their names list. Now I use a 10-80-10 comparison. I'll say, we have a couple people that just don't have a big network. They don't know a lot of people and they're still going to do just fine. They just have to work harder on building referrals right away. And I'll give an example of somebody with a small list. I'll give an example of what most people build is a list of 30 to 50. And I'll explain the importance of that because it enables you to do 10 to 20 appointments in your first 10 days, which, gets, off to a fast start, hit some promotions, make some money. But we also have reps that go above and beyond. And let me tell you some stories of reps who said, let me tell you about Jesse. And Jesse went out and he came in with a list of 100 names and numbers. And he went home and he talked to his mom and dad. He tied them into his goals and he built this list. And he spent hours and hours and hours on this list because he knew that the more time and effort he put in on the front end, the easier the job was going to be later. So if I were in your position, here's what I would do. I would go all out. I would go above and beyond. I would impress yourself with how well you can do on this assignment, right? And so setting the expectation for names list from the post screen for demo expectations, whether it's in the post screen or whether it's in their confirmation call, dropping lines that, hey, most reps like to work harder in their first weekend. They do a lot of appointments. That way they can knock out big promotions. They can get a big first paycheck, build up a lot of referrals. So I'm dropping seeds and planting seeds for, clearing out their first weekend, for doing as many appointments as possible, letting them know that, hey, this weekend the goal, Joseph, is for you to be as tired as humanly possible. I want you to be able to do demo and hit your pillow at the end of the night and just be out like a light. That's how exhausted you're going to be, but that means you're growing your capacity. You're going to want to quit this weekend multiple times because of how hard you're working, but that's the way you learn the job. That's the way you get better, and that's also how you prove to yourself that you can be an absolute badass in Cutco. So demo expectations, twice as many demos in your first weekend, going back to back to back to back. Expectations for phoning as well. So lack of quantity demos is one culprit of lack of first weekend pop. So just really focusing on the names list. In the confirmation call, the question is not, hey, how's your names list going? It's hey, Josh, have you started your names list assignment yet? Oh, you haven't? No big deal. Hey, tell me what your plan is to build up your names. Tell me who you're thinking about to add to it. You're working with them. You're partnering with them. Everything you tell a rep, whether it's in their interview, their confirmation call, or the first day of training, those are the 3 pivot points, the 3 key points that everything they hear from you frames their expectation of what the job is going to be like. The second reason for lack of first weekend pop is lack of quality demos. Lack of quality demos. So in training, talking about the importance of starting off with their best customers first. The importance of their best 5. The full best 5 conversation is in one of those PDFs. Starting off with 10 demos in their first 4 days and hitting that promotion right away. I think it's the making sure that their best sale right away, right after training, as soon as training was over, was a major confidence boost, for me driving to my reps. And the third key, third reason for lack of first weekend pop, I think, is the lack of confidence in Cutco. The lack of confidence in Cutco, I think that has eroded. And I think as a district manager, what I would do to challenge yourself, especially in a virtual environment, is how do I get my people to think so big about Cutco, to be so convicted in the product that everybody needs to buy? The way that you bleed Cutco, right? The way that you just, when you hear it, like your heart skips a beat. How do you instill that into your people? We're in a virtual environment. So is it, figuring out a way for somebody to get their hands on a trimmer and do a cutting clinic workshop in the office? Is it, you taking a break and pausing whatever part in training that you're at and really hitting on the value building conversations and talking about what college students spend their money on? I would give an example. I would say, hey, Chris K, how much do you spend on Chipotle or Chick-fil-A or whatever on a weekly basis? And, if you go out 5 times a week to one of those places, that's $50 a week. That's $200 a month. You could afford a galley plus 6 with what you spend on Chick-fil-A 6 days a week. And it would be 7 if you could. What you spend 6 days a week on Chick-fil-A could afford a galley plus 6, and you don't even have a job. Well, you're in training for a job right now, so you're making progress. But think about this. Cutco is super. So building that conviction all day in training is that they should leave your training feeling like it would be absolutely stupid for somebody to not buy Cutco, right? Sell them sets or sell them something. It doesn't matter what set you sell, as long as you sell a set. So confidence in closing with the value talk, closing percentage being the badge of honor for Cutco. Closing percentage is the badge of honor. So we spend a lot of time on the drop down, a lot of time talking about how great the studio set was and the galley set. I made a living in college. I graduated debt free because the galley plus 6 and the studio plus 4. That's how I graduated college, right? So being able to share that conviction, being able to, you are a walking, talking testimonial for Cutco. You're a walking, talking testimonial for this job and the program and how incredible Cutco is. And you're a walking, talking testimonial for their future and who they can become and who they're supposed to be. You realize that most people have absolutely garbage mentors in their life. They have nobody coaching them, developing them, pushing them, and telling them that what they could be. If Maddie's never had somebody tell her that she could be the best at something before, she's not going to come into Cutco with that expectation. So you doing that, whether it's in a one-on-one conversation on PDI, I think about PDI conversations and connecting and instilling belief and just promoting it. And again, realize that you are the promotion of the job, your promotion of them, the product, and their future. I want to chat for a few minutes about the power of 5. This is a document. If there's one document, Trent asked before what you would dig into right away. As far as specifics, these are the last 2 things that I'll chat about is just the power of 5, and then I'm going to go through just a couple simple metrics for you to focus on this fall campaign as you build back your P-Banquet chances. So the first thing with the power of 5, and again, you can pull it up if you want to. And actually, I'm just going to put it on my screen. That way you have an easier view. So Trent, I'll do these last 2 things and I'll let you jam. So power of 5, to me, it's simplifying. And I put this just on, on the one page. This was my entire productivity program, all culminating into one focus. And it was, again, the focus of just focus on the number 5. Best 5 first weekend. We talked about the importance of best 5. I'm not going to review that. And it's in almost every SLC talk that I've given is role playing the power of 5 of making sure you're showing your best 5 first weekend, building that confidence and starting off strong and building that sales expectation. This is not a show training. This is a sales training. 5 before and 5 after. I mentioned that as well, making sure we're doing 5 demos before and after 5 phone calls before and after every demo. That way you always have 10 demos ahead. And, figuring out a way to recognize that, figuring out a way to appreciate that. And whether it's at advanced training, whether it's on PDI, I think recognition is two-part. Recognition has to be personal and recognition has to be public. It has to be, giving people, if I tell Ryan Williams, if I say, hey, Ryan, this is what I appreciate about you. This is why I think you're going to be a top rep in our office. And this is why I think that I'm going to be recognizing you at the team meeting next week, is because you've got the work ethic, you've got the attitude, you've got the desire to be great. And as long as you can match your schedule with your confidence and your belief, and you can put in the activities, I think you could be a top rep on the team. So recognizing somebody personally and saying, hey, I was really impressed that you went home and you made 15 phone calls by yourself without me even asking. But I also like public recognition, where at a team meeting, I can teach through recognition. And if I want my whole team to have that innate culture of, I'm going to make phone calls whenever I want, and I want to get, I'd like to get recognized for something, even if I'm not asked to do something. So if I recognize Ryan and I say, hey guys, I want to do some special recognition for Ryan. He hit the newsletter this week, but the reason why he hit the newsletter was because every day he made a minimum of 15 phone calls. 10 calls a day equals the newsletter, right? Because if you make 10 calls a day, 5 days a week, that's 50 phone calls. 50 phone calls is going to be 7 presentations. 7 presentations is hitting the newsletter. But Ryan went above and beyond. He made sure that he guaranteed hitting the newsletter by doing 15 phone calls every day. And I didn't even have to remind him. He just went and did it himself. And those are the types of reps we're looking for on the team, because this job, we're going to give you all the tools, we're going to give you all the resources, but what you put in is what you get out. Ryan, I'm proud of you for making those calls. You were able to book your 7 appointments for the week, hit the newsletter, and you made $200 because you're at 20%. Not bad for working a couple hours this week as a college student around your classes, right? So public and private recognition to reinstill the culture, reinstill the activities, right? We never recognize people for the result. We want to recognize people for the activity, what it took to get the result. If I recognize Kristen because she sold a homemaker, that's not going to do anything for her. She's just going to think, oh, I'm really good because I sold a homemaker. Hey, Kristen, great job working hard to the end. I know you sold that homemaker on Monday night. It's the last day of the week. You could have gone from not hitting the newsletter, but you found a way to make sure you hit it and get over that $1,000 mark. Really proud of you for fighting till the end, because you wouldn't have sold that homemaker if you didn't. 5 crucial events in somebody's first week, driving the events and building up the importance of it. I know all of you probably run a great advanced training, but is your attendance to advanced training great? I think about the events. What percentage of reps go from training to advanced training in your office? And if you were to say, gosh, I only have like a 75% show to advanced training, or a 50% show, or almost nobody shows up, well, then how do you backtrack to make it more important? So what types of things are you dropping in training? What type of notes do you have in your leader's guide to remind people of the value? Building up the secret weapon, just that alone. I'm going to teach you how to sell a set every single demo. The secret weapon, the trading special, I can't teach it to you until advanced training because your head will explode, but I cannot wait to teach you. And you're building expectation for everything. You're building up the expectation for the team meeting. I cannot wait for you to hit the team meetings. We're going to be teaching you this, this, and this. I cannot wait for advanced training. I can't wait for AT2. But AT1, it builds their confidence, teaches them some extra skills, and makes a plan for the rest of their fast start. Their first PC, that one-on-one connection. It's so shocking to me, the amount of managers who say, even top managers who say, oh, I was really busy and I didn't get a chance to, do PCs with my team, or I haven't done a whole lot of one-on-ones. That's the business. If I had to choose between group events and one-on-ones, I do all one-on-ones, because that's how you drive events. That's how you drive your top people. So you've got to make sure that you have that first PC within, I would say, before their first team meeting, obviously. Team meetings, advanced training. The point is driving people to events and putting it into a what's in it for them conversation. I think the what's in it for them conversation is really crucial. Trent, the next time I'm on, maybe we'll deep dive into what's in it for them. But essentially, it's authentic, genuine conversations that let them know in no uncertain terms exactly what you mean, and building the value for them. So it's not a need to conversation. It's not like, Anthony, you have to do 10 demos your first weekend because it's an assignment and because I said so. Anthony, let me tell you why you want to do 10 demos this weekend, right? So what's in it for them is building up. Here's why it's beneficial to you. So to me, it's the power of promotion, where you build value for what it is, right? You build value for what it is, you explain why it's beneficial for them, and then it's a call to action. That's the power of promotion. Build value and excitement, why it's beneficial for them, call to action. Shelby, let me tell you about the phone jam. The phone jam is going to blow your freaking mind. I know it just sounds like it's just a bunch of people sitting there making phone calls together at the same time, which it kind of is. But let me tell you why we do phone jams the way we do. There's this energy. When you're watching other people get result, you've got that motivation and conviction to get it yourself. It's also important to be able to get feedback. And you know what I found is that when you're on an office phone jam and you're putting that type of energy into your business, there's real Cutco karma out there, and that pays back tenfold. I promise you, I've always gotten better results when I do it in a group and I have that energy versus doing it myself, because I'm less likely to give up on myself and my goal if I'm doing it in front of other people. So I know it's a little bit weird to be on Zoom and make phone calls, but I'm going to ask you to go above and beyond. I'm going to ask you to do it for me. It would mean a lot to me if you would be there for the phone jam. It would mean a lot to me if you were there for the phone jam. Can I count on you? Right? You're building up the importance, building value, explaining why it's beneficial to them, and call to action closing. It's the same thing with branch. Let me tell you why branch is so incredible. Let me tell you why you would be a great branch. Here's why you should consider it. You want to go to that meeting and learn about it, right? So it's building it up, what's in it for them, and a close. These are the last two, Trent, because these incorporate those couple metrics. And this is the last screen that I'll promote here is 5 keys to building a great team. Very basics is that the newsletter metric was my most important metric, which was the amount of people that hit $1,000 in sales for the week. I know in some people in the fall, they do a smaller newsletter. It's just $1,000. $1,000 is the key, getting everyone to hit 1,000. The metric is however many people on your team hit $1,000 in sales that week, multiply that by 2.5, and that's what your sales report is. It is exact. It happens every time. It's been this way for 15 years, and I can't seem to break the pattern. So if I want to have, Trent and I were talking last week about how to create 100K weeks. Over the summer, we've had a ton, 40, 50, 100K weeks in my career. Never was the goal 100K. Every time, 40 on the newsletter. I can't create $100,000 in sales, but I can inspire 40 people to do 7 to 10 demos and hit $1,000 in sales that week. So I needed to have 40 PCs talking to people about $1,000. I need to have 40 scheduling PCs. I need to have 40 inspiring, motivating conversations about being bigger than yourself and going after bigger results. And I would have to coach 40 people through the ups and downs of a week when they had either a good day, bad day, no sale. Your best sales always come after your worst sales. Your biggest, your best days come after your worst days, right? So 40 times I had to create that. Now you think about how do you create a 10K week this fall? In order to hit P banquet, even if you're at 0 right now, you've got 10 weeks ahead of you. You got more than that. You've got 12 weeks ahead of you. So if you want to hit 13, I guess, if you want to hit P banquet, get to 10K weeks, guarantee 4 or 5 on the newsletter. So how do you do that? Wrap your arms around 4 or 5 people who really care about this job, really care about their future, and are under $30,000 in sales. And wherever your business is right now, you can find that. Even if you have no one set for training between today and tomorrow, you could get that many people set who you can believe in themselves, and go after those rules. So 4 on the newsletter every week gets you to that 10K level. So it's about targeting. It's about getting the right PCs. It's about having the right conversations and digging in with them. We all have the confidence that we can turn 1 rep into a newsletter rep any given week that we want. How many times a week can you do that? That's how you build your sales report. Team meeting attendance, event attendance, the more content and value they're bringing. But I talked to my team about getting everyone to every event possible. It would mean a lot to me if you were there, building the value and what's in it for them conversations. PC, every rep, every week. If the only thing you take from this, I asked our district managers on our call this morning, Michelle Sungi and Jenna Gahn, we're having some solid, weeks. And I said, what are you doing? They're like, I'm just making time for people, And when people know you care, then they're going to care about their business and just spending that time. PDI, every rep, every day, even a quick conversation, telling somebody you care about them, sending them a funny meme, sending them a song they should listen to, just create that connection. If they're not talking to you, they're talking to somebody else, or that little voice in their head saying that they might not be cut out for this job. And then demos, 1 demo per day per rep on the team. If I have 10 active reps on my team, right? Many of you have at least 10 reps in your team. If you have 10 active reps in your team, there's no way that you shouldn't be hitting P banquet numbers right now. 1 demo per day per active rep on the team. If I have 10 reps on my team, that's 10 demos a day. If I have 10 demos a day, that's $1,000 a day. The reason why it's 1 demo per day per rep on the team is because there's the $100 demo rule. If I book 100 demos on my team, then there's going to be 70 of them completed. 30% are going to be rescheduled or they were lied about to begin with. So 100 demos booked equals 70 completed. 70 completed equals equals 40 sales. 40 sales times 250 low, average order conservative is $10,000 in sales. $10,000 in sales divided by the original 100 demos that I had set, that's $100 per demo, even the ones that are lied about. So my job as a DM this week, if I want to have a 10K week, create 100 demos. Create 100 demos. Stop overthinking the business. If I've got 10 reps on the team, that's 10 demos each. I got to find a way to inspire a lot of demos. If I've got 20 reps on the team, that's an average of 5. So who's doing 10 or 15, who's doing 5, and who's doing 2 or 3 to pick up the back of the team, right? So driving that many demos. When we were going after push weeks and 100K weeks, it was never about 100K week. It was 1,000 demos. So how do we generate 1,000 demos between the training class, between the team, between phone jams? It's all about demo generation. As a DM, knowing exactly how many demos you have for the next 3 days is probably the most important stat, because the only thing that creates your paycheck and your reps' paychecks is demos. The only thing that creates demos, which means CPI, I should say, the only thing that creates that is demos and phone calls. So driving demos, 1 demo per day per rep on your team. Imagine when you have 25 reps in your team. Imagine when you have 30 reps in your team and you're doing 30 demos a day. Minimum of $3,000 a day, 20K a week as a base, and then you launch a training group. That's where you become a David Roy. That's where you become, an Andrew Evans. That's where you become a Brian Hurlman. That's where you become these managers, a Paige Weber that's getting unreal results because she's just driving demos and keeping it simple and believing in people. She cares about people. She cares about the opportunity. Sorry for picking on your page. And then last is 5 keys to developing a great rep, individual rep. Get them to the newsletter every single week. They hit the newsletter every single week. Within 10 weeks, they're at 30%. You can work a part-time schedule and make full-time income, or you can work a full-time schedule and make ridiculous money, graduate debt-free, and have the next couple of years to decide whatever you want to do the rest of your life, financial freedom and opportunity. Mission 100 with their names list, 5 before and 5 after demos. Next best 5 customers. Who are you calling next? And again, appreciation and recognition. You could say all the wrong things, but if it comes from the heart and you mean well and you appreciate the people on your team, you care about the people that are in front of you, you're going to do great things as a DM. Trent, I know this was our first time going through it. I had fun, but I know it was really sloppy. I'm happy to come back anytime you need. I hope this was value add, and I hope everybody picked up a couple keys, or at least spent some time just thinking at a higher level about their business.
I can't stop smiling, Drew. This is exactly what this is supposed to be, and I knew that you were going to be the man to be able to get it kicked off. Thank you so much. Folks, I'm going to ask a favor. I would love to give Drew a gift, and the gift is going to be based on a word that you're going to drop into the chat. 1 or 2 words describing how you feel at 2:43 Eastern Time after Drew's message. 1 or 2 words just to describe how you feel after the first message at SLC. We are going to take a 10-minute break. I wish it could be 15, but I want to be able to make sure we get John Wasserman up here, okay? So at 2:53 Eastern Time, I'm going to introduce Was for whoever's here. You don't want to miss it. Building wealth, that type of a topic is huge. I encourage you, when I say go in just a moment, we're going to take a real legitimate break. Drop a word in the chat if you haven't already done so, describing your emotional state after Drew's message. We're going to put together a little word cloud for him. Shelby's going to put some music on in just a moment. I'm encouraging you to take a bio break, get some food, get some water, get yourself some energy, because we still have a lot of great content to cover today, including building wealth and going beyond emotional intelligence. So once again, let's throw some jazz hands up here for Drew Frank and drop a word in the chat for him. Thank you so much, my brother. Outstanding.
Thanks, Trent.
That was great, Drew. Now that you taught him how to make the money, I'll tell him what to do with it.
Was, I remember being on stage at every SC2 in Northeast region, just watching you take the #1 trophy every year or every SC2, and you were a big reason for my motivation as an assistant manager, sales manager, and thank you for being a good guy to look up to for the last 18 years for me.
My pleasure. You've certainly taken the baton and run with it. So I think you deserve all the accolades that people are posting right now. It's great.
On a summer's day.